Welcome to the Safety, Health, Inspection, and Equipment Logistics Database, or SHIELD, Princeton's one-stop resource for laboratory compliance and data management. The next series of videos will lead you through setup and configuration of your research group's pages within the SHIELD system. Upon logging in for the first time, you will be prompted to complete the laboratory registration wizard. This setup will quickly configure your lab group within the system. The initial lab registration process will take approximately 20 minutes. Begin by logging into SHIELD using your Princeton NetID and password. If the wizard doesn't start automatically, then the user need only click on the Start Now link in the Compliance Message Center. When you start on the setup, it brings you to this welcome screen. Note that the registration process can be delegated to a lab manager or other senior member of the lab. To begin the delegation process, click Delegate Now. You'll then be prompted to enter the username of the delegated lab member. Otherwise, to begin the setup process, click the link labeled Continue to Laboratory Setup. If it's not pre-populated, you first want to select your building, room number, phone number, and emergency shutdown status. Those are required fields. Enter your department's 7-digit department number in the mail code field. Your department is pre-assigned prior to your first SHIELD login. The emergency shutdown status is used to indicate the operating state of the lab. For example, most lab groups were functioning in a limited operations status following the research stand-down caused by the COVID-19 outbreak and resulting pandemic. Normal operations corresponds to ongoing research operations. Once you have filled in the fields on the initial page, click the Submit button at the bottom of the page to move to the next section, Lab Category and Research Focus. Check the appropriate lab category. For the purpose of this tutorial, we are going to mimic a biological research group. So we're going to check the box Research Lab. Enter the focus of your lab. For many research groups, they simply copy and paste a paragraph from their research website. Click and Submit button at the bottom of the page to move to the next section. Next, we'll complete the lab hazard assessment. You'll want to identify all hazards present in the lab. In some cases, clicking on a hazard type will prompt additional options that allow you to more accurately describe the hazard. For instance, by clicking on the hazard Biological Materials, additional options appear that allow the lab to identify the biological safety level of containment necessary for the organisms and pathogens used in the lab. Use the help bubbles identified by the blue circled question mark. The help bubbles provide detail to help the user identify the appropriate hazard types. Again, click the Submit button to move to the next section. The Laboratory Members page is a critical part of the system. Assigning members to the lab group provides a cohesive way to identify students and research staff affiliated with your lab group. SHIELD is integrated with other university computer systems and databases, including the university directory. So in this case, I'm going to enter an individual who is listed in the university directory as an example. Any individual with a university affiliation will be listed in the directory. Both undergraduate and graduate students, research staff including postdocs, and even visiting researchers. Simply begin typing the name of the individual and pause as the system compiles a list based on the name entered. I typically enter the last name of the individual to minimize the size of the list. Find the name and select it from the list to add the member. Select the person's role within the lab. Click the Lookup Add button to add each member to the lab. Once you've added all of your laboratory members, you'll select the Done Adding Members button. Now, we'll assign the job activities. Job activities identify the research tasks that each member of the lab performs as part of their research. In many cases, job activities linked to mandatory training requirements that are automatically verified by way of a direct link to the Employee Learning Center. You have the option to assign job activities to all users at once by clicking the Select All checkbox at the top of each column. You may also choose to select items individually. Be sure to select all job activities performed by each of the lab members. The job activities are grouped in tabs according to hazard type. For example, general, radiological, biological, etc. As you select activities, the system is communicating with the Employee Learning Center and verifying the training completion status for each of the required training items. Once it's all selected, we'll submit. And now your laboratory setup is complete. Really simple. Should only take a few minutes. Following the setup process, you'll be directed to the lab home screen for your laboratory. For this sample lab, you'll notice a number of training noncompliances, identified by the exclamation marks and the red overdue notices. Any training noncompliance identified for your researchers should be addressed immediately. Thank you for reviewing this training video. Should you have questions or feel that the information associated with your lab group is incorrect, please feel free to reach out to the EHS office by phone at 609-258-5294 or by email at ehs@princeton.edu.